Hey Hasita, remember that passion fruit concentrate from Coorg that you're planning to send to me?
Yes, how can I forget?
So I have an idea. Can you send it to me on a horse?
Uh,
I'm not kidding. The guy will come on a horse. Have you opened the Swiggy app yet or not?
oh my God. Okay, okay. Who is this knight in shining armor that we're talking about?
So apparently, I mean, I don't know how much of it is staged and it feels very real. Somebody spotted a guy on a horse with a Swiggy backpack in the Mumbai rain, looking like he's very, very focused on delivering whatever he's got with him. So now Swiggy says, hey, where we want to find him. Like he's our ambassador. He's the dude, the knight in shining armor. And they've gone out so far as to change that little rider scooty on the app. So now, if you open the app and actually place an order, you'll see this little guy on a horse heading towards your
Gently
house.
trotting.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So where you had me at horse, Mumbai rains, and Swiggy backpack. Like, I don't know how those three, they just don't make enough sense in my head. But clearly they did to Swiggy and just in time too, because yeah, as you rightly said, they've turned that into such an amazing moment marketing campaign, right? Like I saw on Twitter that apparently they're offering 5,000 bucks to anybody who spots who this un what's the word for it? Unassuming champion of Swiggy is.
Yeah.
And
And the responses are hilarious. Hey, that's the guy in Dadar. Hey, that's the guy on Marine Drive.
I highly doubt, as he said, monsoon. So
But
what an
yeah,
interesting campaign. Yeah.
and I think that's what I mean. As business owners, we all want, right? We want that quirky little story, that idea,
Yeah.
that something which just makes a splash. And this forever waiting for organic reach to reach somebody, it's getting tiring, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I feel for you, Subha, because as you know, I'm also going through the same thing as is everybody else, I think. And just the other day, in fact, I was sharing a link with my team for the campaign that what three words, this geolocation, fancy geolocation platform that uses three words to tell anybody where you are, was using as a campaign. And we'll put a link in the show notes. And I was just saying, when did we stop having fun with the whole thing, right? It could be so exciting, and somewhere we started quantifying it into an X number of posts a month or a Y number of comments a month, which I think kind of defeats the whole purpose. And like you said, we are all waiting for this organic reach pipe dream to materialize, and it just never seems to. So let's kind of dive deep into that today and talk about our relationship with social media and where the expectation, I think, sometimes about organic reach comes from. And is there still hope? I mean, right? I think that's the question that we're all asking. So let's dive right in.
Sounds good. I need to hear that there's hope.
Welcome to the Damn Good Marketing Podcast. Now that we've forayed into social media, there are some very, very big, extremely poignant questions that need to be asked about social media, such as, does the platform have my best interests at heart? And if I'm running a business, what can and can I not expect from social media in general? That's exactly what we'll be discussing today.
Like I said, Hasita, the pain is getting to be quite real because there are a multitude of platforms, and while that was always the case, it's just not possible to be your whole and true self on all of them at the same time, and then also build the business to back it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it really feels like, hey, I can either be tweeting or taking fancy photos for Insta or whatever, but I can't. Then when do I run my business? But there are so many success stories, so there's got to be something that will help just a lot of us figure it out and maybe step away from that FOMO of wanting to be everywhere and do a few things right. I am still not sure what the strategy should be.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question, even from the larger perspective of things, because I think just about 7, 8 years ago, and even today, I think inbound marketing, right? The idea that somebody will discover me through the work that I'm doing or through the value that I'm adding to somebody's life and will therefore come transact with me, have a commercial relationship. I think that expectation still stands. And some experts have gone so far to say that content marketing is the only kind of marketing there is, right? So but like you said, I mean, not all of us want to be on every single social media platform. My Instagram account is still very faithfully private. LinkedIn is a love-hate relationship. And you, Suba, have, kind of quit Twitter after realizing how much of a time and headspace it demands of somebody, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you see this and you think, is this really even for me? Should, somebody else do it? And in that case, how is it going to pan out? And there are genuinely no easy answers, right? Because we have seen people succeed with all kinds of systems, and we've also seen people fail with all kinds of systems, which is where I think some foundational questions do need to be asked from time to time, such as what I think Whole Truth did recently, right? I mean, they said we've had it with Instagram. Organic reach is genuinely not taking us anywhere, and somewhere the cost versus benefit of paid ads, especially for D2C brands, which is a numbers game, right? I mean, and not all products have a lot of margins to kind of, keep acquiring customers at a certain cost forever,
Yeah.
right? So then the question comes up, and I think it's a pertinent question to ask: that is this platform really giving me any return on my investment? And if so, what is that return? Like, am I hoping to engage people such as, the Swiggy, Zomatos of the world? Their accounts are not really about the sales at all, right?
Correct.
But is that enough for me? Is that enough of a traction inducing engine in my case? And especially when you're a small team, should you focus on building the business or should you focus on just being on social media the whole time? So I think that question always remains, right? Should I just focus on building my business or should I focus on, being on Instagram, being on LinkedIn, being on Clubhouse, tomorrow something being on Discord? Like, how is that even going to work sometimes?
Correct. And as you said that, I just realized that we're also not the same person on all platforms, right? Like, I didn't see the Swiggy posts as Raincraft or as a coach.
Yeah.
I saw it as me, the general consumer of content on that platform.
Yeah.
And I think I left Twitter because it was a very, in a way, a personal space for me. I've made a lot of good friends over the years. And unless I was like really whole and soul there throughout the day, I was missing out, the threads of
Yeah.
conversations, the joke of the day, etc., etc. So I said, okay, I don't need this, but I might still have a professional account there.
Yeah.
And share certain things. So I think maybe that's something to think about, right? Like, who all can we be on social media?
So true. And I like what Karthik Srinivasan says about our personal brand being something, it's like a house with 100 windows. And it's not that you'll open all 100 windows at all times. You just kind of be very selective. But what you said also kind of makes me think, about who I am, even as a consumer. Because in consuming content, I'm trading my time. Right. For an expected outcome, which is I want to be entertained, I want to be educated, I want to XYZ on different platforms, right? But that also brings up the conundrum of how much content do I consume from any given handle? Like, for example, Subha, when Stranger Things season 4 was releasing in 2 parts, I was following the Stranger Things page on Instagram because I wanted to know when the interviews came out and when the celebs were doing photo shoots and things like that. But once the volume 2 was over and I had my fill of content, I stopped following them.
Correct.
Right? And I think that's true of so many brands and so many creators. We've also become extremely cognizant of the fact that every social media platform at the end of the day is taking some time from us.
Correct.
Right? So unless we have a direct transactional benefit, we don't see the value of following a page. For example, why would I want frequent updates from my bank's Instagram page? And I don't, right? Which is also why I think in our reports that we send out, especially on social media work, we have stopped putting followers or comments or likes on any of the reports because we realized for a very long time that they didn't matter. It's only now that we're realizing why, right? So we focus on valuable conversations, we focus on engagement, and that's where I think we also put the onus on the client, the business, to think about what does that engagement mean to you. Are you expecting to feel good about it? Are you expecting to just be out there? Are you seeing these platforms as a way to capture market signals? Or are you seeing it as a sales channel?
Yeah.
And depending on that, we quantify, right? Like if it's a sales channel for you, we want to quantify the number of valuable conversations you have. But if it's just a place to be for you to tell the world, it's more of an awareness engine. And I think social media should be just that. Then the nature of conversation is what we would want to try and quantify over a
Yeah.
period of time.
And you know, I was just it made me think that we keep using the word engagement, but even, and I'm guilty of this, all I do is just push out a post,
Yeah.
right? I am not spending any time, like, have I engaged with four other similar businesses or those who could be potentially my partners, or have I engaged with, you know, two other coaches on that platform?
Yeah.
I haven't, right? So how am I expecting that
Somebody
they
else
will
to,
engage with
yeah,
me?
yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a give and take. And it's interesting you brought that up, Subha, because the two brands that I do follow on Instagram are an independent bookstore based out of Bangalore called Champaka,
Mhm.
and a coffee brand, a very niche coffee brand called Kere Haklu. Hopefully, we have an announcement to make on that soon. So I think the interesting thing, or the reason why I follow these, is that first of all, on any given weekend when I want to feel good, I look at their content. And that again is a two-way street, right? Like, for example, if I didn't enjoy reading books, me enjoying a Champaka, Instagram handle is very unlikely.
Mm.
But because I do, they did this extremely fun thing last week where they said, send us an emoji and we'll send you a book recommendation. And
Ah.
usually I don't take book recommendations from people I don't know. But with Champaka, that's never been a problem, right? So I'm like, hey, let me send an emoji and see what happens. Likewise with Kere Haklu, I think what I really like is that, I see them making avocado sandwiches one day. In fact, last weekend, I think they did an entire weekend of just ask me anything kind of, stories, wherein people asked pretty much everything, right? Like they asked, how do you manage an estate of this size? Right down to, hey, does coffee stain my teeth? And everything in between, right? And I think that is engagement, right? It's not about likes, comments, shares. While we do want to quantify it that way, I think the larger question comes down to, have I been able to have a transactional value wherein this conversation has added value to somebody and it's added value back to me as well.
Right. And I think that's why a lot of us small business folks gave up quite early on spending for ads, because we've all tried Facebook ads,
Yeah.
and we don't have the budget. So we try pretty paltry sums, I guess, from Facebook's point of view. So they dump a whole lot of random likes
Yeah.
on us. And I swear to God, I don't think 90% of those people exist in the real world with the names that they claim to have.
Yeah.
And so that's why we gave up very early, because we didn't know what to call it, but we were looking for that engagement, that someone who, I mean, like, don't just click on a blog link or click like on a blog link, because I can see that you haven't actually gone to the
Gone to
blog.
the yeah. And that's the boon and the bane of reach, right?
Yeah.
Another huge metric that we keep discussing in the context of social media. But that's interesting, right, Subha? I mean, if you were looking at a hoarding, would you expect that your ad would be placed there for free? Right? Even like a sports person's t-shirt, would you expect that the brand has not paid to have their logo present there? Why then do we expect that of digital media? And I think it's also the square blame has to be placed on digital media to a certain extent, in the sense that they got us used to that idea, right? 10-15 years ago when Facebook was very new, everybody wanted to create a page and suddenly they had 1,000 fans, as they called them back then, 10,000 fans. But let's be honest, you and I, we are not fans of coffee mugs and whiteners and sharpeners, right? We are just like people who are interested in certain things after a point in time. So at some point, I think even the platforms have realized, and that's exactly what they've done is, first of all, there are a lot of us right now. Let's just like make peace with that, right? And therefore, we all feel like we are sharing relevant content, and literally, we are all just kind of shouting into a void. At which point, the platforms have started doing something that they call prioritization of engagement, right? Like if I engage more with your post, the next time you post something, the likelihood that I'll see it is far higher because I like you, like in the real world, right? So that also kind of applies for paid advertising, right? Like, I mean, if it's no, there's no free lunch in any case. I think we've all grown to accept that much. It's only the degree of money that you have to pay. And this is where I think sometimes when we do share costs for paid campaigns, people are genuinely surprised, and rightly so, because what was once supposed to be free is now costing 30K, 40K upwards, a month, even for platforms like Instagram Instagram, LinkedIn is pretty much out of reach for a lot of brands. So I think for us, first of all, the thing that we need to accept is that the free days are over. Right. There is never going to be this whole concept of, oh my God, now I'm getting so much, unless you do obviously something wildly creative and really tap into a moment, you will still get an X amount of traction because of that, like the Stranger Things example. But beyond that, there's no such thing as someone who will fall in love with you and stay in love with you for the rest of your life.
Which really means that 90% of your time you have to focus on yourself, in the sense that you have to generate quality stuff, right? So I mean, why do you go to Champaka? Someone could replicate it easily. You go because they are taking the effort to recommend books that they know their audience likes. They're stocking books that are not available elsewhere easily. Like the core business is still something that they're focused on.
So true, so true.
There's a startup. I mean, there's a young businesswoman who I work with, coach, mentor, and she makes children's books, right? And so we were having this conversation where she was saying the same thing, that I've got 6 books, and 6 books over a period of 3-4 years, and now I'm not seeing the engagement, and the Insta algo is changing every day, etc., etc. And intuitively, what I said to her is that your audience has already bought those 6 books. So you have to focus on making book 7, 8, and 9.
So true.
Right? Your core business doesn't stop. And you're looking at the 6 books sales, or not even sales, engagement on these platforms to validate whether you should do a 7th. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it takes 2 things. First of all, a bit of a self-actualized situation to realize that at the end of the day, my only difference or my competitive advantage is always going to be the fact that I do XYZ and I do it in a certain manner. Right? Everything else is just distribution, right? And that can be done. Whether you pay X amount of money or more, less is the only subject in question. But the fact is, distribution is never usually the bigger problem, right? And that's why I think that outside in perspective that you brought to an intervention like that, Subha, and that's where even as agencies, what we try to do is also exactly that. Right? We have to be honest and tell people that, hey, you don't have a product sometimes, and this has been a very common thing. In fact, especially in the context of B2B products, which is where a lot of our work is currently focused, people think they have a product. Or even an MVP. Like, I wouldn't even go so far as to call it a product, but they think they have a minimum viable product. But if it doesn't do what it says it will do, then how is it a minimum viable product, right? And this is one of my favorite examples to use is that, the MVP for a car is a bullock cart. It's not a wheel. Right? So a wheel is a feature. A bullock cart is an outcome, right? So I think somewhere that little bit of focus also in terms of, am I doing the right thing? Am I doubling down on that? And this is in this context, I just want to bring up the example of one other client. They sell luxury homes, slightly new concept in India in terms of the way the home can be owned. And I genuinely like how they go about the founder's LinkedIn profile, right? So we created a bunch of posts for him. They're doing really well. They even sold a home off the back of just the LinkedIn reach, completely organically, the unicorn. But then he kind of also stepped back and said, hey, if I continue to post only about this, then people are going to see this as a sales channel, right? Which it is not. It is my personal profile, right? And I think that kind of awareness about where we are and what we are showing up as is both rare and I think valuable as well.
No, very true, very true. It strangely reminds me of these, resume clients that I get, and they've told me, okay, or they've given me all the information about themselves, and then they say, oh, but this resume is not meaty enough, and I'm thinking it's not the resume's fault. Like, it's your career and your career achievements and highlights, right? So, the resume can only capture what you've done.
That's true.
And you can shout out from the rooftops only what you've actually done. And so you have to focus on that part.
True. And that's an interesting thing to bring up, right? Because the sum total of what you're putting out there needs to be the sum total of what you're doing and not the sum total of what you're aspiring for or how you hope things will be. I mean, sure, we all have dreams and we all want to get there, but there is also this funny little thing called reality.
Correct.
And I think what social media is doing to us to a certain extent, and obviously there will be negative and positive ramifications in any situation. I think the good thing for us all to take away from this is to really think about who am I and what am I doing here? Do I even want to be doing this? And if I do, then can I have fun with it?
Yeah.
Right? And let, I think, a lot of these other things become secondary benefits, and most importantly, accept that it will take time. Right? It will take time. And in terms of the early wins, I think some of the things that we can look for are people who genuinely message us or DM us and say, hey, this sounds interesting to me, or I found this to be interesting. Not only is it a validation of your idea, it's also sometimes a validation of your campaign that you went after the right people in the first place. Right? And I think that much is enough, because beyond that, looking at an X number of increase in followers or or a Y kind of engagement, why has my campaign not been picked up by 4 PR outlets? I think they'll all come. We'll all get there. But until we do, we just need to kind of find a place where we can continue to have fun.
Yeah, and I think we also don't need to be the same thing on all platforms.
Oh, so
So
true.
you can be the founder on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and you don't have to really get into too much about your day-to-day company stuff,
Yeah.
but just share your industry level thoughts, right? So just kind of be you. And maybe on another platform, maybe on Facebook and Facebook groups or something, you're making more of some salesy kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
posts. So I think being able to differentiate who you are where, and a lot of the stuff that you said, really, like, do engage and do build your core business, and be willing to try some of this, but back it up like in the real world.
So true. And I think, Subha, in the LinkedIn coaching workshop that we've been doing, I think people have asked in terms of, I am these things on a daily basis, but which of these do I put on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it really comes down to individual choice as well, as to if I put it out there, will I be comfortable with the kind of feedback? Because the fact is, social media is a bit of a extended circle of influence, right? Like a lot of people who don't have any context about us will probably see the post.
Correct.
And that's not a reason to shy away from things, but on the contrary, to be a little more authentic in terms of what we do. I think put in a little more thought and just do a few posts, right? And this is the unpopular opinion, because I do know there are theories about, oh, do 5 posts a week and 6 posts a quarter and all sorts of things. But the fact is, if I don't have 5 valuable things to say, then let me say one good thing from time to time. And let my locus of control be the 10 people who appreciate that kind of thought.
Correct, correct. No, it's not easy. And I think fundamentally, we all know that our focus has to be on first building that good business, building that good brand, knowing what you stand for. And then I think all of what you've said, like approach each channel and think about who you want to be there fundamentally.
Yeah.
And then present yourself there. Some will work, some things will work, some things won't. So you iterate and come back and try something else. And basically, you're telling me, Hasita, that it's not easy.
Of course not. I mean, I wish there was any other way to put it, but yes, it is not easy. It is very much a collaborative effort between whoever you choose to work with. Some teams at the startup stage, because they do have a marketing kind of orientation from the very beginning, so they choose to do it in house. Especially if you're hiring younger folk, I'm sure a lot of them are very digitally savvy and they just know, they get these platforms, right? So things like that. But also, some teams do choose to work with external consultants for a variety of reasons. And in both cases, it really is a partnership, right? Like, I think the thing that needs to be said and we all need to accept is that there are no easy answers. Nobody has the answers. So if anyone's telling you that while they're pitching, then they're lying to you, because there are no answers. I mean, I wish it was different, but it isn't.
Yeah, no, I think that's important for all of us to kind of reinforce to ourselves that agencies and kind of outsourcing some of this and partnering with others, it's not a transaction.
Yeah.
It's a relationship. You need to get them to understand your brand. They need to invest in figuring out who you are and how you can be represented, how you can differentiate, etc. But they're not miracle workers. So just because I've handed off my Instagram handle to an agency, it doesn't mean like 20,000 people are going to be flocking there,
Yeah.
because that's going to come from the work that I do, and I have to be willing to partner, give the right brief, work with them to kind of say, okay, what's worked, what's failed, and try
Yeah.
something different, etc. But those outside eyes and ears definitely help. I think we all become too close to the
The
work that we
problem
do,
sometimes. Yes.
right? And we don't see it in any. We think, oh no, but I started this to solve this problem, so I am forever solving this problem. But maybe the world is viewing you differently, and only someone on the outside can tell us that. And I think that perspective is really, really important. Like the lady I was telling you about, the book,
Yeah.
the author. So she said it was so important for me to hear that. And now this year, all that she's been doing is been working on book 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7 is already out. And she says, my books 1 to 6, you handle them online.
Yeah.
And let me do what I do. And we keep bouncing ideas off each other. So I think definitely, agency, maybe the word is the problem.
Yeah, maybe. But what else can we call ourselves? Do tell us. And we will kind of think about renaming ourselves. But so true. Yes.
So I don't know why all of this reminds me of last evening and Coffee with Karan season 7.
Oh,
I mean, I
yes.
just had to catch it. My daughter came up to me and said, "But I thought you didn't like it." I said, "Are you crazy?"
No, of
Like,
course I don't like it, but I still watch it. You understand, right?
I mean, I have to be topical about Hollywood, right?
Come for the trash, stay for the gossip.
And now it's time for the much awaited Topical.
So let's see what are some of the characters there that and how they appear on social media.
Yes.
Right? So you were talking about billboard. So who do you think is like a walking, talking billboard of their brand?
Oh, Ranveer Singh. I mean, I actually do genuinely love the guy. Like,
Yeah.
he is so outlandish and he's not embarrassed to be outlandish.
Yeah,
He's the star-spangled man with a plan, literally.
correct.
And he showed up in this outfit and he's like, he's just so chill, right? He genuinely doesn't care what people think.
And he
about
makes you
him.
think like, dude, this can't be real. Like you can't be so energetic and happy
Yeah.
and
But I
colorful.
like what he said on the episode yesterday
Yeah.
about going through life with a certain light-footedness. And I'm like,
Correct.
oh, such a deep thought coming from
I know.
So yeah, I think I'd like to be friends with Ranveer Singh.
Sorry, that slot is taken. By Alia of all people.
Yeah, I told you to stay for the gossip.
Okay, so tell me this. Who do you think is, oh, I'm on Instagram, but it's actually, I have a life and I just happen to share here, but because I'm bigger than all of this.
In the context of Bollywood,
Yeah.
Kareena Kapoor, I think.
Yes.
But there are also so many others, right? But yeah, I
But
think
she
she tops the list.
that Pooh character which
Yeah.
defines her, I think it still continues, like I'm above all of this, but
Yeah.
for all you plebeians, I'll
I just hang around
throw
there,
a
like
few
give you a
memes,
few
yeah.
tidbits from time to time so that Pink Villa can pick it up
Yeah.
and just have like a field day. Yes, so true.
Those guys are also the Pink Villas and the Miss Malinis and kind of just taking everybody's content and it's just
Reposting
yeah,
it and having
yeah.
an opinion. Yeah, I mean, nice, even good for them. So,
Yeah. You get everything in one page.
don't tell me you follow Pink Villa.
I won't tell you. Okay, who will wish you love and light on your birthday without fail?
On my birthday, I don't know, but
No,
like
but
in general,
yeah,
in the
in
context of
general.
Bollywood, Alia, no?
No,
No?
no.
Love and
Love
Light.
and light always.
Anushka Sharma.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You will be showered with love and light always. But I like her.
Yeah,
She's
I do
quite
genuinely kind of
sweet
like that.
and
She's very sweet.
yeah.
But there was a weird moment on Coffee with
Ah.
Karan. I genuinely didn't get that.
Oh, you didn't get that?
No, I didn't get that.
No, so the question was like, what would they
Be doing on their 50th
on their 50th?
anniversary. Yeah.
So Ranveer says we won't know because they're so big on privacy.
Oh, that way.
Like can't show our daughter's face and they won't show the back and
Oh, I thought he was really being mean about his ex or something.
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's like two sides of X's, no? I don't know. Anyway, so I think so. He was trying to say we won't know because they won't want you to know.
No,
when.
okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that it? That's all we've got.
I think we need to follow a few more follow pages. I definitely need to. Or, I can just keep checking on them from time to time and get the information I need.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
But I think Alia and Ranbir's, I mean, all those wedding snaps, they really took the internet. Really
Yeah, they
quite
broke the
excited.
internet. Yeah, they did. In a good way.
Mm. And maybe it's a good thing that Ranbir Kapoor is not on social media.
I mean, literally every actor or actress is on social
Yeah.
media, isn't it? And Ranbir Kapoor, as an actor of this generation, trying to launch an entire universe with Brahmastra
Correct.
is not. But then, of course, his wife does make up for it, and she's like a very nice, bubbly human being in general on social media.
Yeah.
But I wonder where I don't think he's on Twitter or he's
Nowhere.
generally nowhere on social media, right? So, yeah, good he married Alia. At least we get to know what's happening in his life now.
That was fun. I think that reminds us that, we are there on these platforms for so many different reasons at different points in the
Yeah.
day. And sometimes it's just to de-stress or just to catch gossip or just to know what's happening in the world. And then the rest of the time, it's like, did I reach anyone with this post?
I mean, what that tells you is that the brand interaction component is so low. So don't really make such a big deal out of social media. I mean, I know it's a channel and it's an important channel, but there are other ways to stand out. And I think sometimes don't let social media blindside us to some of these other opportunities, I guess.
Sounds good. Catch you next time.
See you. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Damn Good Marketing Podcast. I know, we got a little heavy in the beginning, but I think these things needed to be said. Wouldn't you agree? Well, if you do, leave us a review if you're on Apple Podcasts and just give us a like if you're on any other platform. And of course, please do reach out to us on LinkedIn and tell us that you're doing a good job. We're having a bit of a FOMO thing going here. So we will see you on LinkedIn, hopefully. Thank you.